BBC Radio Gloucestershire.
Vernon Harwood.
On the programme very soon, something for Teefax fans. It's not dead, you know.
Teefax ends transmission after 38 years. Time to hit the road.
So we'll be meeting the man who can't live without a Teletext service, so he's decided to reinvent it. He's going to be with us after 10 o'clock on the programme. What are your memories of Teefax, Teletext, the ITV version which was called Oracle? Clever name. I wonder if you used to, as I think we all did, didn't we, follow football matches before there was, of course, wall-to-wall footy on the telly and on satellite and cable. We used to watch the matches on Teefax, following them as they flicked over.
Vernon Harwood.
BBC Radio Gloucestershire.
Page by page on the edge of our seats. What are your Teefax or Teletext memories? What did you book? Maybe you booked holidays from the text service on the telly. The internet before the internet. I can remember back in the mid-1970s. It was amazing that you could read news and travel and recipes and even pages of jokes on your telly. In the days when there were only 3 TV channels anyway, we had to make our own fun. 01452 307575 for your Teefax memories today on the programme. Edwin Starr. SOS, Stopper on Sights. 17 minutes to 10 right now. We'll update with the latest news from around Gloucestershire at 10 o'clock on the programme. Then after 10, we're going to revel in something which a lot of people actually weep at the idea that we've lost, and that is Teletext on the BBC. In other words, Teefax. And of course, the other tech services have disappeared as well, because with digital switchover, there was, well, obviously no need, a lot of people would say, because of the internet, but also, of course, the technology was no longer there anymore. Red button came in, and lots of people, of course, getting the information they need from the internet. But there's one man from Stroud who basically can't cope with life without a bit of Teefax. So he's created his own version, and we'll meet him, and we'll find out more, and we'll revel in the memories after 10 o'clock on the programme. Now, let's talk about rail fares, because they've increased since the year 2010. 5 o'clock tonight here at BBC Radio Gloucestershire. Now, let's talk about Teefax. Going to meet a man from Stroud who's built a new version of the Teletext service for people who just can't live without it. It's been a few years since Teefax disappeared. I wonder if you have your own memories of Teefax or the ITV version, Oracle. I don't know how rare this is, but in a previous life, in fact in a previous 2 lives, I wrote pages for Teefax and also for Oracle. I'm not sure how many people did that or are happy to admit it on the radio. But the Teefax was the BBC service introduced in the 70s that gave us information on our television screens before the internet.
One new special service you may be interested to see is this one, called Teefax, meaning See Facts.
Now, as we come to the end of this day, the 8th of May, 1985...
Radio 2 is on the air all night, of course, and we shall be back in just a few hours.
Until then, we'll leave you with our selection of pages from Teefax and some music.
Now, Teefax only needs a small amount of equipment and a few staff. It's an extra service the BBC can supply very cheaply.
It went live on the 23rd of September 1974 with a magazine of 30 pages, and it was the first teletext service in the world.
You need a decoder on your television set to pick out the signals, which are carried in a previously unused part of the television transmission.
And for the half hour before breakfast time, you can keep abreast of the latest news, weather and travel prospects with Teefax AM. You don't need a special set for this new service, just turn on to BBC One.
Good afternoon again from BBC Two. In a couple of minutes, the Star movie is a lively musical starring Maureen O'Hara and Lucille Ball as two...
In spite of its limitations, it was a huge technical advance, because this was one of the earliest deliveries of digital information to the home and led the way to the use of the internet for gaining information.
And the memories came flooding back. If you've got your own memories of Teefax, perhaps following a football match as the pages flicked over, let's hear from you today. 01452 307575. Of course, Teefax, Oracle and the rest discontinued in 2012, made redundant by the digital switchover, and I suppose really by the internet as well. But if you're missing out, then there's some good news, because, well, it's made a comeback with a new name. The man behind it is Stroud software engineer Peter Kwan, and he's with me now at BBC Radio Gloucestershire. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
First of all, why your fascination with Teefax? Where's that come from?
It came from my job. I used to work at a company in Stroud that made teletext equipment, and I was sent all over the place at BBC and got as far away as Cyprus, looking after their teletext systems. And when it got shut down in 2012, my job also got shut down. So I had plenty of spare time to think about things, and I did enjoy working with teletext, so I kept it on as a hobby. And I realised that these £5,000 units that we were selling to the BBC could actually be done an awful lot cheaper with the new technology that was coming out at the time. And one of them was the Raspberry Pi computer, so I put some effort into writing a teletext system, and with the help of some other people, managed to get a signal out of these things.
Amazing. And there is a charm, isn't there? About, it's not just nostalgia. There is a charm about Teefax.
I think Teefax lives in a very limited world of 1,000 characters, 8 colours, and if you have a message to get across, it has to be very simple and immediate. So it's not like having to trawl through a million Google results to find what you want. It's right there. The stories have been subbed down to something that you can read. It's almost like having a story in the space of 4 Twitters.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because as I said earlier on, I used to write pages for Teefax, and then a long time prior to that, I used to write pages for the ITV service, which was called Oracle. Most people remember that from booking holidays. That seemed to go really well on ITV Teletext. But interestingly enough, there were 16 lines. Every news story had 16 lines on Teefax. And I don't know if you are aware of this, but even now our online teams still have to write their stories to 16 lines.
I was very much aware of that because I wrote some software that scrapes the BBC website. And for a few years after switch off, the stories fit a teletext screen exactly.
Yeah. So teletext may be gone, but the rules and regulations still exist.
They were up till a couple of years ago. Then somebody changed the formula and then said you could have titles that were more than 40 characters long. So that did mess up my system a little bit.
You've called your new service Teefax. Why? I mean, obviously born of Teefax, but why the T?
It just happened to be that the website that I hosted it on was called T-Stop, and because it was aimed at cyclists, because the club that I cycle with, the Stonehouse Wheelers, they like tea, and
so that sounds as good an excuse as any, to be honest with you.
So yes, the most important thing to them is where's the T-Stop going to be, so I called my site tstop.co.uk. Then when my teletext stuff came along, I put it on the same site. So the name sort of stuck, and that's what they used for the Facebook group that all the teletext enthusiasts are gathering at these days.
Now, you have set up a screen in the studio here, and on it we've got Teefax. It's something that's bringing the memories back for me. We'll tell you more about it, and we'll share it with you as we continue our discussion with Peter in a couple of moments' time. But BBC Radio Gloucestershire on Teletext has been reborn today. It's a marvellous thing to see. More to come in a couple of moments. After this one from Sam Cooke on a Tuesday morning.
Don't know much about history.
On the A417.
On DAB Digital Radio.
This is BBC Radio Gloucestershire.
So, do you think of Teefax, the old teletext service from the BBC, and weep in nostalgia? No need to, because a Stroud man, Peter Kwan, is with us in the studio. He's created a new version for the modern age called Teefax. And I have to say, you've caused quite a stir here at BBC Radio Gloucestershire, because our local BBC Radio Gloucestershire page on Teefax disappeared years ago, but you've recreated it with today's schedule.
Yes, it's a page that I captured in 2007, and quite a few of the names are the same. There's one or two that have changed, but so I didn't have very much work to do to update the page.
Sure enough. And today's schedule is there. So Joe Lima at 5, Mark Cummings at 6, Steve today, me for Anna at 9, Dominic at 12 o'clock, Nicky Price at 3, it's James today, Sybil Roscoe looking after things for Steve from 5, the footy tonight from 7, Dan Chisholm at 10 o'clock on The Late Show, and then, of course, it's up all night from 1 o'clock. It's wonderful, because that's a page that I used to work on years and years ago, and it's remarkable to see it back. It lives.
Yes, it's due to a lot of people working on recovering teletext data from old tapes. We didn't think it was possible because the bandwidth of videotapes wasn't good enough for teletext, but some people have come up with some very clever mathematical techniques and a lot of computing power, and they can take an hour or two of video and then process it for a whole day, and out the other end comes the recovered teletext for that day. So they are picking up programs from way back, Oracle days, and things that were recorded on Betamax. So the challenge is to digitize all of those tapes before all of the technology gets lost. And they've got several hundred complete days of teletext archived.
Does it matter if it gets lost? Because now, of course, we have the internet. It's quicker. You can get more on there. You can watch videos. You don't have to wait for pages to flick around. If you're on an 11 or 12 page feature, you're not having to wait 15 minutes to get to page 1 again.
There isn't any real practical use for it, but the mathematical techniques for recovering data are going to be very useful for listening for faint signals from space, for example. They use exactly the same techniques for recovering
You're not telling
data.
me that we're going to hear from aliens on the Radio Gloucestershire Teefax page?
No. But,
thank goodness for that.
But the clever mathematics applied to this seemingly pointless task can be applied to more useful things.
I know what's going to happen now. There's going to be loads of BBC Radio Gloucestershire listeners saying, I want to hear all about Teefax. How can I get it? What do I need to do? So how do people get to relive the wonderful days of Teefax?
At the moment, what we are doing is working towards a teletext festival in Cambridge. And so this is...
A festival? Really?
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought. And then they started selling tickets at £10 each, and I thought, never, that's not going to work. And
but they've sold loads, haven't
Well, they sold out in a week.
Oh, of course they do.
It seems to be more popular than we expected. There is also an international teletext art festival that has been going on for the last few years. It's usually held in Helsinki or Berlin, but this is the first big event that's happening in Britain.
So how do I get your version, Teefax, then? Do I need a special telly?
You need a Raspberry Pi computer and any old television that between the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they should all work. If they have teletext and an analog input, then you can run our teletext system from a Raspberry Pi.
And is it a subscription service, or can you just sort of tap away?
You can tap away. It's free software that you download onto the Raspberry Pi, and that just connects to our Teefax server, which sounds grand, but it's just another Raspberry Pi sitting on top of
your fridge.
Well,
I'm loving this.
Yes.
Is there somewhere we can find out more information? Have you got a website?
The Facebook page...
You should have actually, you ought to have a Teletext page, really, but anyway.
Well, yes, you can find out all about us on page 199, or... but that's a bit of a circular argument. You can go to the Facebook page called Teefax. It's like Ceefax, but with a T, and that is where you'll find all of the people who are active in recovering teletext, and the artists and the story writers and the joke tellers and the...
It's all there. You've got news, you've got information, you've even got Radio Gloucestershire's old page.
And there will be you'll be able to find a recipe for installing the software onto your Raspberry Pi, so that you can get a TV connected up to our Teefax signal.
For someone who used to earn a living, well, sort of, by writing pages for Ceefax and earlier for the ITV version, this has brought the memories flooding back. This is wonderful. Great to meet you, Peter. Thank you so much for coming in, bringing in the kit, and good luck with the festival in Cambridge later on in the year.
Yes, thanks very much.
That's Peter Kwan there. He's from Stroud. He's a software engineer, and he's created a new Ceefax for the 21st century. And, well, let's listen to the demise of the old one. This is back in 2012.
This is BBC Two, and it's the end of an era as we mark a piece of television history. As Northern Ireland goes digital soon, Ceefax ends transmission after 38 years. And since 1980, we've shown Ceefax in vision pages with music on the BBC until now. So before the final fade to black, enjoy for the very last time news and information with pages from Ceefax and some music. Time to hit the road.
Well, that's very typically Ceefax music. Have we had enough of that? I think we probably have, haven't we?